Today I'll be reviewing this 2022 Kia EV6. This is Kia's take on the very popular Tesla Model Y. This EV6 is very similar in size, gets similar range, similar power, similar in price. However, this EV6 does have its own advantages. It has features that you will not find in any Model Y, including power handles, augmented reality heads-up display, also 360 camera view. You're just not gonna find them inside a Model Y. However, there are disadvantages as well. So in this review video, I'm gonna tell you everything there is to know about this brand new EV6 and conclude whether or not this Kia is better than a Tesla. All right, I'm behind the wheel. Let's see how good this brand new EV6 is. And let me tell you more about it. First of all, let's start with the looks. I am a big fan of this EV6. I think it looks fantastic. In terms of EV cars, I mean, with a few exceptions, I can't think of many that look as good or as stunning as this EV6. Traditionally in the past, when it comes to EV cars and hybrids, they are just not good looking. I don't know, manufacturers really didn't put any emphasis on looks because they figured, oh, everyone just cares about range and efficiency. No one really cares about looks. That's not the case anymore. This EV6 looks stunning. I love the front end. It has a similar vibe to, like, say, the K5, but it looks more aggressive. I like it better. The daytime running lights, very unique. You have multiple that surrounds the LED headlights, right? The grille opening, the bottom bumper, very, very aggressive. And I love the sport hatchback look, the silhouette. This is not a lifted SUV. This is more of a hatchback. It gives you all the practicality, utility of a hatchback, but it still looks more sporty. So it does sit lower to the ground. Take a look at the side view, right? Very nice. This GT line comes with 20-inch alloy wheels. I like the design, and you can see everything is blacked out, right? Door handles are painted, but the mirrors and the window trim, everything is blacked out. Love it. The contrast with this beautiful bright red, it looks good. And that hatchback in the back, right? I think Kia just nailed it. Nailed it with the exterior design. This is not ugly. It's beautiful, aggressive, and I do think many agree with me. Kia, of course, created this EV6 to battle the Tesla Model Y, which is selling like hotcakes right now. In fact, it is one of my all-time favorite cars and definitely a leader of the EV segment. Now, this EV6 is very similar in many ways. In terms of size, even though it's not a lifted up SUV, on the inside, it is plenty big, and that will surprise you because a lot of EV cars these days are just actually quite small. They're not big, but when you sit inside a EV6, you realize this is a pretty spacious car, right? Plenty of width, shoulder room, nice, hip room, nice, right? And even headroom, not so bad, although because it's not an SUV, you don't get as much headroom as a Model Y. You get endless headroom in a Model Y. You don't get that, but plenty of room in here to stretch out. And same thing with the rear. I'm 5'10", and take a look. I have a good 6 to 7 inches of legroom in the second row. That's mid-size SUV territory, right? So there's plenty of room in the back, and I still have about 2 inches of headroom. So this EV6 is big. It's bigger than expected. And if you go in the trunk, you can see, because it's a hatchback, you get a good amount of trunk space as well, although it's not as big as a Model Y. It's close, it's similar. And if you fold down the second row seats, you'll see that you have plenty of room to store and haul whatever you want. So in terms of size, this EV6 is similar. It's surprisingly big, but not as big. Now, as for the interior, I gotta say, I like this EV6 interior a whole lot better than the Model Y. I know Tesla's going for the minimalistic, simplistic kind of design where you have one big screen in the middle and that's it. you know what? I'll take 2 screens any day. Inside this EV6, you get dual 12.3-inch screens, so if you put them together, more than 24 inches, and they're just nice. Very nice. The screens are very, very bright, responsive. The resolution is high. There's no confusion. Kia actually made them very, very simple. Starting with the gauge cluster, there's not a whole lot going on, but just enough to know what's going on. So you have your speedometer. There's no tachometer, but you have your range, right? And it shows you the essential things like your trip computer, your navigation, also some of the safety systems, and it tells you your charge, your range, you know, stuff like that that you want to see. Useful things that you don't get to see in Model Y. Also, the other screen, which you can control your music and your system settings and navigation, other things, right? It's very smooth, very smooth. In fact, smoother than some of the other Kias I've tested. Call me old-fashioned, but I like the manual controls in here. So underneath the screen, you know, you have a couple of knobs for setting temperature, right? And then your defroster, your auto climate control, you know, stuff like that that you're used to in a normal car is still here, even though they're capacitive touch, a little bit different, but they're still here. And same thing with your heated and ventilated seats and your heated steering wheel, right at your fingertips. Not everything is crammed into one screen. So I do like that. The one big negative is Kia left out the volume knob. There is no volume knob in here, so the only way I figured out how to up and down the volume is on the steering wheel, but there's no knob, unfortunately. Now, the center console design is also floating design, so it's kind of cool. There's a lot of space underneath, and you could throw your backpack, your purse, whatever. And there is a couple plugs down there. Unfortunately, though, they're so far away, it's really hard to reach. So if you are trying to plug in something, you have to reach really down there to get it. But if you're simply trying to charge your phone, there is a wireless charger right by your armrest. The shifter is also better in my opinion. This is more natural. It's a circular shifter, and it's kind of similar to the modern cars these days where you can circle to reverse, drive, there's a button for park. Versus a Tesla Model Y, there's a stalk, right, where you have to go up or down, and it's not as intuitive. So this also makes it easier to get inside, put in drive, and start going. Something else that I like better inside this EV6 is just steering wheel. It seems like it's bigger and it's more supportive, meaning that it's thicker, it feels better in my hands. It's a cooler design. It's a 2-spoke setup, not a 3-spoke, so it looks different. And you know what's cool is the paddle shifters in the back. And no, they don't shift the gears. You don't get to control the shifts because it's a 1-speed transmission in here. But Kia did something really interesting with that. You could control the regenerative braking and how strong you want it to be. You could make it so that you could do 1 paddle, you know, driving, or you could turn off completely and let the car coast after you take off the accelerator like a normal car. That is awesome. I can't tell you how awesome that is, because the biggest complaint from new Tesla buyers or just new EV buyers in general is regenerative braking. It's something that doesn't feel natural, because in most cars you let off the gas and the car will just coast. But with EV cars, it's not the case. Regenerative braking kicks on and the car comes to a stop really fast. But if you're not used to that, you can't really turn that off in a Model Y. Supposedly you can make it less strong, but it still feels the same. With this EV6 I've already tested, I have it off right now. When I let go of the accelerator, the car is just cruising. It's not stopping, right? But if you have it in full mode, it will basically come to a stop. And that's really cool. I really think that's cool, and that's one of the advantages of this EV6. Now, everything else on the steering wheel is pretty self-explanatory in terms of controlling your music modes, your volume, your phone, adaptive cruise control, and of course you can adjust things inside the digital gauge cluster. Now, there's a few other things inside this EV6 that you're not going to find inside a Model Y. For example, this augmented reality heads-up display. So I can't even quite explain what Kia does, but it is one of the coolest things I have ever experienced inside a car. So unlike normal heads-up display, which is just right in front of you, it just seems like, yeah, it's just there, right? Kia made it so there's a 3D effect to it. It's a gimmick, but it works. There's a 3D effect, so everything that's shown in front of you, like for example, if you have a blind spot warning that comes up, and then the speed limit sign and your miles per hour, they're layered differently. So it gives you, illusion that it's floating in front of your face. And I can't describe any better. You just have to try it for yourself. But man, it's so different than any other system I've tested. I don't know why Kia decided to stick it in this EV6 and not their other cars, but it is really cool. And this is not something you go find in a Model Y. Especially, I've always argued this, with a Model Y without a digital gauge cluster, right? You want some essential stuff in front of your face, like how fast you're going, the speed limit stuff, right? I haven't figured out why Tesla refuses to put a heads-up display in any of their cars. It doesn't make any sense, but there you go. That's another thing that you're not going to find inside a Model Y. Something else you're not going to find inside a Model Y is a 360 view camera system. Teslas have a ton of cameras everywhere for their full self-driving system, but they somehow can't stitch it together to give you a 360 bird's eye view. But inside this EV6, you get that, and they have stitches so well that you could use your finger and rotate around your EV6, very much like what BMWs do with their system. But I would argue this one is even better because BMWs are limited in their range. This one goes a full 360. Again, something that you're not going to find in a Model Y, but you find inside this EV6, and it's fantastic. Now, the one other thing that Kia did so right with this EV6 is the automatic presenting handles. For those of you guys that have watched my Model Y review videos, and I've owned a Model Y, my biggest complaint are those handles because they're flush with the door, right? And you have to use your thumb to push in and then pull. If you're used to it, that motion becomes more natural, but any new person that's walking up to a Tesla, they have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to push it and pull it, and it just ruins the experience. A lot of people want to be wowed by Tesla, right? And you want to show off to your friends and family. Although, when they approach your car, no one knows how to open a door. It's actually quite embarrassing. Kia solved that problem. The handles are flush, but when you unlock the car, they simply pop out. They just pop out for you to pull on. It's just that simple. It's such a little thing. You figure inside a car, you shouldn't have to worry about how the handles are. It's so natural and automatic, right? But somehow it's a problem with the Model Y, and it's not a problem inside this EV6. All right, I'm gonna put this EV6 in sport mode. Ooh. Yeah, this EV6 GT line has some grunt, has some thrust. So because it's all-wheel drive, it has more power because it has dual motors. So this is coming in around 320 horsepower, which doesn't sound all that impressive, but the torque is 446 pound-feet of torque, and that torque kicks in instantly. So 0 to 60 is very fast inside this EV6. You're not gonna have a problem trying to pass anyone. If you go drag race, you probably go beat a lot of cars. Not recommended, but you would. And it's just very smooth. With EV cars, one of the best qualities with the throttle is how linear it is. This one is that. It's very linear. The direct feeling of the throttle to the car, accelerating is 1-to-1. And if you like precision, you're gonna like this throttle, and overall the speed is fantastic. What else I like is the steering. It's very close to a Model Y, and I think that's fantastic. One of the things I love about the Model Y is how precise the steering is. There is no play, zero, not even 1 millimeter of play If you make a simple little twist on the steering wheel, you will feel it on the road. That's how precise the Model Y steering is, and that's how precise this EV6 steering is. It has that same feeling. So the steering feel is fantastic. Pretty much can't be beat outside of the EV world. A normal car just can't have this kind of precision. And I would argue that this is better because of how good the steering wheel is. The steering wheel is, it's better. It's better than the Model Y. It actually feels like leather because it is leather. And the overall shape is just bigger too. I mean, it's just more comfortable to hold on to. So far, I gotta say, I'm very impressed with this EV6. I mean, there are so many advantages over the Tesla Model Y. I could see how Kia just was really going for it when designing its EV6. Now, this GT line does have other features as well. For example, a regular sunroof, not a panoramic one, but a sunroof. Unlike a Model Y where you have a fixed glass you can't open this. So that technically is an advantage. You have HomeLink buttons here, which you don't get inside a Model Y. For whatever reason, you have to pay extra for HomeLink. It is included in here. You also have memory seats and power folding mirrors. Those are pretty standard. And back passenger also gets heated seats too. So far, so good. Now, what are the disadvantages to this EV6 overall, and what are the disadvantages compared to a Tesla Model Y? Well, let me answer the latter first. Well, the Model Y is bigger. I already mentioned that. It is bigger, has more trunk space, also has more frunk space, meaning the trunk up front. The Model Y is significantly bigger. It's not even comparable. This one has a little box up front. You can't even really fit anything in there, to be honest. Other than like a small bag, right? Even a briefcase can't fit in there. Gym bag can't fit in there, right? So the frunk is really useless, other than to put maybe your charging cables. That's it. Also in the back, even though the cargo room is plenty big, the Model Y does have like a hidden trunk underneath, which is huge. You can put all your groceries in there and it just kind of fits in there, right? Inside this EV6's trunk, underneath, again, it's just like a small little space for, again, charging cables or something. So from a frunk perspective, a Model Y blows this out of the water. Something else this loses out on versus the Model Y is range. This GT line, because it has the all-wheel drive, is under 300 miles for range, about 276 miles. A Model Y, on the other hand, with all-wheel drive is coming at 330. So a 60-mile difference, that's pretty significant. Also, in terms of power, this one comes in 0 to 60 around 4.6 seconds. So if you're comparing this to the popular long-range Model Y, it comes in around 4.4 seconds. So the Model Y is more powerful, it's faster, and does have more room on the inside and has more frunk space. So the Model Y does have its own advantages. And the one big advantage all Teslas have over all manufacturers is its infrastructure, its charging infrastructure. Supercharger stations are plentiful around the US, and they're building more each and every week. You can't really say that about the third-party charging stations, even though they're growing, but not nearly as fast. Unfortunately, with this EV6, you're gonna have to charge mostly at home. If you're trying to charge on the go, even though there's plenty of stations out there, there will be some areas where there's just not a whole lot of chargers. So that is something that Tesla wins just really by default. Now, as for charging, this EV6 can charge very fast. Goes from 0 to 80% in about 18 minutes, which is giving you 200-ish plus miles in about 18 minutes. And that's really quick. So all the latest and fastest charging stations out there, this EV6 will accept. Now, other thing that I didn't mention, it's obvious that this EV6 is a pure EV car. There's no engine, no exhaust noise, and it is very quiet inside. It's also well insulated too. So I'm passing by a lot of cars, I don't hear anything, nothing. And wind noise, nothing at all, right? But when you do floor it, you do hear that electronic like whine noise, right? But outside of that, it's very, very quiet in here. Now, as for the seats, these are like leather / cloth combination seats, and they're okay. They're not the most comfortable seat, especially in the back. The angle of it is quite awkward, so I thought in the back I wasn't that comfortable. Up front, it's okay. Of course, everything is powered and you could adjust it, but I find it's not as comfortable as some of the other cars I've tested. But versus a Model Y, I would say it's pretty similar, pretty in line. As for trim levels and pricing, there are 5 different trim levels to this brand new EV6. And the base one is labeled light. It's the only one where you can't select all-wheel drive. And that one comes in right under $41,000. Next, you have the wind. You have rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive starts around $47 and all-wheel drive starts around $51. Then you have the GT line, which is what I'm driving today. Again, rear-wheel drive starts around $51,200 and all-wheel drive right under $56,000. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that this EV6 is still eligible for the federal tax credit. So it doesn't matter which trim level you select, you get about $7,500 off when you're doing your taxes. So it does bring this GT line all-wheel drive, the one I'm driving today, around $56,000 down to about $48,400, so sub $50,000. So it's important to remember that federal tax credit does bring down the price significantly. And unfortunately, if you buy a Tesla, you're not eligible for that anymore. So to conclude, am I a fan of the EV6? Yes, I am. It's about time other manufacturers finally took EV seriously and are coming out with great cars like this. This is a fantastic EV car. I've already mentioned all the things that you could get inside this EV6 that you can't get inside a Model Y, and that's fantastic. There are some drawbacks, I mentioned about that, and the price is very similar. However, if you take into account that you can still get the tax credit with this EV6, that makes a significant difference versus a Tesla Model Y. So it really depends on what you guys are looking for, but I will say this EV6 is pretty impressive. More impressive than I thought coming into this review, and I'm a big fan. So smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you tune in for my future review videos. Take care. Bye-bye.